أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. الله كبير. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين. اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. الله كبير. Again, we are here by God's grace, and we are privileged and honored to have this moment with God, and this is a huge blessing from Him that He has chosen us to be able to make contact with Him, and it is a real, truly an honor and blessing, and so we should remember this, and we should be grateful to the source of this blessing that we have today, and it is not by accident. These are by divine design and providence that we are privileged with this huge blessing from God, and so we should cherish it, and we should be grateful to God, and make sure that we understand it, that everything that we have is coming from God, and we are here at His pleasure, and so when our time is up, God is going to take us from this worldly life, and that doesn't mean that our existence is over. Our existence is going to continue, and in a different shape and different form, and so we have to trust Him and serve Him, and make sure that we are happy with the way that He's conducting this huge universe of His, and so we should be at peace with Him, and make sure that we have no doubts about it, and that there is a hereafter, and that hereafter is the real thing, and so God promises us of that hereafter, which is a beautiful place and beautiful abode for the righteous, and so we should make sure that we understand it. Again, gratefulness and appreciativeness is a godlike quality, and we should follow His path. And He's always grateful to us for all the good deeds that we do. And He also admonishes us not to do bad things, which is basically saving us from ourselves. God says that all of this is brought upon yourself with your own two hands. And so we should make sure that we appreciate that word of wisdom from God and understand it very well. Again, so we should return in kind and respond in kind to God, and be appreciative and grateful for everything that He has done. And sometimes we fail and we cannot do that, so we have to ask God to force us to be appreciative to Him, just like Solomon did. Okay, but today what I wanted to talk to everyone is that God created the human beings with very little need. So our needs are very minute. And so a lot of people that suffer in this world is not because of the need that they have, is because of the greed that they have. So you have need and greed. And so the want is the enemy of the self. And so what we are doing in this world, basically, our greed is superseding our needs. And so God is telling us in the Quran that it's very clear that He says that be happy with your lot. And so if we are like that, then God will give us more. If we are not happy with our lot and we try to do things that could be actually harmful to us, sometimes those wants that you have, those greed thing that we have, all of us have, could be harmful to us. And God is protecting us from that. God wants to protect us from our own greeds. And so in that case, what we have to do is we have to make sure that we are happy with what we have. Okay? So you look back at your own life, and uh, you had probably started poor, and you were not needy, but your needs were covered. You had your piece of bread and some food, and so that's what we need. We need a few bites of food a day, and that gives us energy. Actually, it's a very efficient machine. A human being is a very efficient machine, and it is amazing how efficient it is. That with very little food, you can do a lot of work. And so this kind of efficiency that the human being has, is tried to be duplicated in robotic systems and in all kinds of machines that we build. We try to make it work with little energy, but the output you want it to have the same output that you have with gallons of gasolines and everything that you have to pour into your car and make it run. But the human being, the system is very efficient. That's God's design, and so with that little efficiency, human being can do a lot of work, and so those needs are answered immediately. Okay, and God says that look, you have a system that God has created, and the system is that every creature has its own provision assigned to that creature. That's what God is telling us. Okay, so from that ant, you have a piece of bread or something, and you drop it outside, and all of a sudden you see a row of ants. They come, and somehow they know that there was a piece of bread there. So all those worker ants, they come in there, and they carry it, and that's another efficient machine that can lift 5-6 times its weight load. I mean, that's amazing, isn't it? And takes very little of nourishment. And so all of these systems that God has designed are a source of awe for us. And so our needs are very, very little. And as I said, and sometimes we are occupied and preoccupied with the wants. And some of those wants could be very harmful to us. And God knows that. Okay? So people who think that they are praying for some good things and some wealth and things like that, not that God is not giving it to you. He's going to give it to you. He gave it to Solomon. Okay? He did. But the point is that, now, why doesn't he give it to everybody? Why the wealth that was given and the kingship that was given to Solomon was not given to everybody? Well, first of all, maybe those other people don't have the same ideology and the same way of submitting to God and the same way to be at peace with God. And furthermore, they don't know how to deal with it. And Solomon knew how to deal with it. Solomon, every step that he took, he knew that this is coming from God. Some people, they think that somehow it's coming from them. It doesn't come from them. It's not coming from us. It's coming from God. So it belongs to God. So he knew that. Okay? So the very thing that could be actually a system of, that you think that is going to be a system of opulence and happiness and things like that, could be actually harmful, and it is not good. You'd rather have a very, modest life, that your needs are answered, that you do things and you do not waste things, and you go along with God's system, and you are happy with what God has given you. You are happy with your lot. You are content with your lot, as God tells us in the Quran. Then we are going to have a happy life. Okay? Otherwise, the very thing that we are thinking that's going to bring us happiness could be actually our enemy. Okay? So you go throughout the Quran, and the Quran has, so many different words of wisdom that God has given us, and so many examples that God is bringing out for us. And so you have the spectrum of all of these messengers and prophets that God mentions in the Quran. And the spectrum goes from the way that Job was, one end of the spectrum, the low end of the spectrum, and then the high end of the spectrum is Solomon. Okay? So what was in common with all of those guys? All of those guys had the idea, the perseverance to understand that everything is done by God. Okay? So in the case of Job, God healed him from this earthly material. He healed him. Okay? So that water that was supposed to heal him was shown to him by God. He said, dig the ground, a spring will gush out. And that's going to be a cool drink and a healing for you. So he was given that knowledge, so he was fixed. And God says that we also made his wife to be righteous and good. Okay. So God blessed him at the end, but he persevered, and he was at peace with God at all time. He did not waver. On the other hand, Solomon the same way. Okay. He knew that everything was coming from God, and he asked God to make him, to force him to be appreciative to him. Okay. Then God tells us the same thing in chapter 46. Verse 15, he tells us exactly the same thing. He says, when you reach the age of maturity and reach the age of 40, then what you have to do is you have to ask God to force you to be grateful to him. Because, as I said, sometimes and most of the time we are not able to do that enough. God says if you were going to count God's blessings, you will never finish. Okay? There is no end to God's blessings. As I said, just look at yourself and where you were and where you are now. But now, as I said, we have to be happy with the lot that God has given us. We have to be content. We cannot go beyond that. And as I said, everything is God's. We are here at God's pleasure. When our time is up, he's going to take us. And we don't know when that is. Only God knows that. Okay. And again, a lot of things that we do in this life, as I said, based on want and not need. Our needs are already taken care of by God. Okay? You may say, well, there are some poor people or something. There are ways to feed those poor people. And God has made provisions for that. Okay? He's got zakat, he's got khums, he got charity, and it's different ways that God describes those ways that one can help those people. The people who are more comfortable, more opulent, those guys can help those people. So their provision is provided for them. The reason that they may look hungry or something, because those guys are not doing their job. They are not given the thing that they're supposed to give. And then it becomes a source of confusion for us. It's not. It should not be a source of confusion. God has already designed his system. We are the ones who actually violate his system. We are the ones who destroy his system. And then we see the consequences. The consequences are shameful. They are heart-wrenching. When you see somebody starving, okay? So you give food to the needy. That's their right. That's what God says. Okay? Time of the harvest, you give food to the needy. That's his right or her right. They're supposed to be fed. That's the need, that's the need of the needy, and that needy needs the stuff which God actually has assigned to him or her or there or whatever. Okay. God has already assigned that to them. We are the one who violated. We don't like it. We are greedy. We want more for ourselves. We believe in this zero-sum game, that you all have to give all your money to me. Okay? So we cheat, we steal, we rob, we do all kinds of bad things in order to enrich ourselves, but that enrichment is going to be a source of agony for ourselves. It's not going to be good. So anyway, we have to think about this very carefully, okay, and think deeply, think honestly, okay, that our needs have already been provided for. And it doesn't matter where it comes from. It should come from somewhere. And those avenues and those paths have been already designed and provided by God. So if you follow those things, there aren't going to be any agony, there aren't going to be any hunger, there aren't going to be starvation. Everything's going to be fine. We are the ones who are making hell out of this world by doing things which is not appropriate, which is not actually commanded and ordered and instructed by God. These are not ordained by the Almighty. And so we have to make sure that we understand that. We understand that, as I said, this is going to be a happy world. And that's where happiness comes from. Okay? So happiness actually is to be at peace with God's system. And as I said, we have to make sure, okay, that once our needs are fulfilled, okay, and God gives us some more that we don't need, okay. You may make some money that you didn't expect, okay. You got raised that you did not expect. You got something that was not supposed to be there, okay, and God had provided that for you. And so accordingly, what God is saying is that, look, give to charity, okay, make good at these things that I'm telling you, and we have to understand that, and we have to honor it, and we have to respect the word of God, and then we'll be a better community and a better people, and there will be no end to it. Okay, so I'll stop here and we'll finish this unit. Allahul Kabir.